Welcome back to Workshop Wednesday. I'm Chelsea Bussemeyer. Thanks for joining me today in my workshop. And let me ask you a question. Do you love sleep pants or lounge pants or wearing them? I know I do. Comfy pants, and with these last few holiday days, you may have even been living in your lounge pants. I know I've been wearing them longer, although I definitely have the rule that I do get dressed each and every day. That being said, I thought today it would be really fun to take a little tour of my pattern drafting program on my computer. So I do most of my pattern drafting with my computer program. It's just quicker and easier since I do have the program. I did make the pattern for my two little toddlers on paper, like by hand, just because it is such a quick, easy pattern. And for them, I just did the simple one seam pant leg. So just the crotch seam and the inseam, and then of course the waistband. But for mine and my husband's, I wanted to do pockets. So I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna do a seam down the side. It's just gonna be still a straight leg, but I'm gonna put a seam in and then do that pocket so that we have that, because it's just so much nicer to have pockets in your pants. So here's my screen. I've got my program brought up and I have a blank page. This dark gray is my new page that I'm going to work with, and I'm just going to start by making it a rectangle. And the fun part about working with computer pattern making is that you can see it all, like the whole pattern, really great. The whole overview, even if it is a very, very large piece. This has been really helpful for wedding gowns. But here with the rectangle that I'm creating, I can just type in the upper corner the dimensions that I would like. And so the width that I would like to have is the full length of the front portion of my leg. Since the side seam is the longer measurement, I'm going to go with the side seam measurement for the length. It's going to dip down a little bit in the center front. And I'm going to go with the width of my thigh. So that's the fullest measurement, the widest measurement of my leg. So the thigh measurement is the measurement that I'm going to go with for the width. And then I'm just going to click it here and we can bring it down to size. So it created it in the full size and it was just bigger than my page. And now I've brought it down to a smaller size so I can see the whole piece and we can work on it here. So this is going to be my full front leg, and I'm going to start by adding in a couple of markings. I'm going to put a parallel line in where my thigh circumference is, where the depth of my crotch is, and so I'm just going to grab the parallel line tool. So I'm going to drop the parallel line down. So if you were doing this by hand, then you would measure on the side seams, you know, your points where that parallel line should be, and then draw a straight line across at the depth of your crotch. So the crotch depth for me is, it's 21 centimeters on the side seam. So I'm gonna go with that. So now that I know this is the depth of my crotch and this is the full thigh circumference that I want, I'm just gonna put in some notches, or some markings rather, points, where like my hem is going to be at the bottom. So I'm using a perfectly straight side seam, as I mentioned. So I'm just going to go from the side seam over the full width of my hem circumference on the front portion of my leg. I'm going to once again just type it in, because then the computer will do it exactly the way I want it right away. So I'm going to put in 20 centimeters and then just click it, and that puts a little marking here, right where 20 centimeter leg is. I can add a line. Now this is just going to look straight, but I'm going to curve it right here for the tapering of how it comes down to the hem. And then I'm also going to add a nice little point here at my waist, going from the side seam. This is the outer leg, the side of the leg, and I'm just leaving it straight once again, as I mentioned. I'm going to just put a marking in where my center front point is going to be. So I'm going to dip down here, 20 centimeters is where I want that marking to be. Just going to double check, measure the length here, make sure it's actually at the right spot. Looks good. So this is the front of my crotch. I'm gonna just put in another line that I can shape. So the fun part about these particular lines is they've got little handles on them, so I can create curved lines. So if you were gonna do this pattern by hand, you were making it with paper, you would want to just draw kind of a straight line down and then use a curved ruler or curve it over by hand. So I'm gonna soften this up a little bit. We're gonna just reshape it. I think that looks better for the crotch itself, for the shape of the crotch. And I'm gonna just shape these legs up. So I'm gonna try and go for somewhat of a right angle here. It just meshes together better if you've got right angles where pieces come together. So I'm just gonna do somewhat of a right angle right in the corner. For the leg itself, since I want more of a straight leg, I'm gonna go straight up from the hem, and then we're gonna just flare or taper out to get up to that point that I need for the crotch, a little bit higher up in the leg. It's always interesting to see how the shape kind of changes depending on how and where you move the little handles. You can lengthen them out or shorten them up, and just to get a really nice harmonious curve the way that you want for your piece. I think that might be a little bit long, but I think I'm going to shorten this up a little bit because I really just want it to flare out for that upper thigh higher up in the leg itself. Don't want these pants to feel too baggy. I mean, comfortable, but not too baggy. So I'm kind of liking the way that looks. The one thing that I'm not sure of is this crotch depth here is looking really deep to me. So I'm going to cross-reference my measurements. 24 up at the waist. That's my problem. Why did I do 20? It should be 24. I think I said 21. Where did I get that 20 from? Good thing I cross-referenced my measurements. I'm just gonna move this here. It's a nice 4 centimeters. Double check this length. That's looking better. And then I'm just gonna reshape this as well because my crotch needs to be reshaped with this adjustment. So we're gonna have more of a straighter crotch line and then curving over. So that looks a whole lot better. So I'm just gonna cross-reference this here one more time. So we have 24 for the waist. Yep. We have 31 for the thigh. I've got 20 down at the hem. Yep. Side length. I mean, the side length hasn't changed since I put it in, but that's perfect. I'm just gonna give a little quick measure. I'm not liking this shape of the seam, so I'm going to reshape this just a teeny bit. Yep, like that much better. I'm just gonna measure here too the length of my inseam because I took the measurement on some pants that I own as well as on my body. 73 will be perfect. Okay, so the last thing we need to do here before we cut this out is I'm gonna just add another point right up at the top here to drop down so I have the correct crotch rise in the front. So the rise on the side, I have 5 centimeters actually higher than in the front. So I'm just gonna drop this down. I'm gonna take a look at it with 5 centimeters. That is quite a transition for this short distance that I have. So I'm just gonna take a look if I add a line here and reshape it so that we have a nice transition right across the center front, and it goes up to the side seam, nice and smooth. I'm just gonna cross-reference the length here for my crotch depth. I have a crotch depth for the center front of 16, and I have exactly 16, so that's perfect. Yeah, so I'm going to cut this out and just remove the pant leg that I want to keep. So this is the new piece that we've created, and I'm just going to select the whole piece because then I can add seam allowance all the way around at the same time. So because I'm adding a band for the hem and at the waistband, I really only need 1 centimeter of seam allowance on every seam all the way around, so I can easily add that everywhere. So my white line here is now where my stitch lines are going to be, and then the outer edge shows the full pattern piece when I print it out. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add another point on the pattern here because I want to add a notch where my pocket is going to be. So I'm going to drop down here. I'm going to do a 15 centimeter opening. I'm going to add a notch right on that point, and then I'm just going to drop in another little bezier line. That's what they're called, the ones that I can adjust. So I'm just going to come into the waistband here, and then down below, that's 15, I'm going to drop it down about this much. You can just measure it quick if you're curious how deep my pocket is. So I added about 10 centimeters, so the whole pocket is about 25 centimeters. I'm just going to reshape it because I don't need a triangular shaped pocket. I need a pocket shaped pocket. So I'm just going to dip it down slightly in the middle and round it up so you don't get derbs caught in the corners. Everything will come out nicely, and then I'm just going to copy this as well. So copy that one out, and you can copy the shape of your pattern as well. See, by copying this waistband and the side seam shape, the notches, all of that, you can really just trace that portion and then choose the shape of the pocket that you want to create. So I'm going to take a look at my new pocket. So it copied my seam allowances and my notches, but I do need to add a seam allowance here for the pocket itself, closing it up. So I'm going to just add that. And then let's take a look at our pattern. So we have our front leg, we have our pocket, we just need to create the back leg now. So I'm going to just grab a new sheet, and we're going to go through this again, starting with a rectangle. However, the rectangle is going to be a little bit bigger this time because I'm going to use the full length of not the side seam, but the side seam plus the extra rise that I have in the back. So the side seam measurement from that waist line to where my thigh measurement was taken is 21 on the side seam, and in the center back it's 28. So this just accommodates for my bum, the extra fullness that I need in the back. So I'm going to add that measurement of 28 instead of 21. There's a difference there of 7 centimeters. So I'm going to add just 7 centimeters to my side seam length, creating the full length of my leg with the full width of my thigh, and the back thigh is a little bit fuller as well, as the pant leg needs to be able to go out and over your bum. The back pant leg is always a little bit fuller than the front one. So this rectangle looks exactly the same, but the actual dimensions when I printed it out would be bigger than my first rectangle. So I'm going to work the opposite direction. So I'm going to just kind of keep this edge as my side seam. So I'm going to start by putting a marking in, or a point, with the same side seam that I was working with on the front piece, just because obviously the side seams are going to be stitched together. So the length of the side seam that I need is 93 centimeters. So the point is going to just pop in there. This is the center back height, but I do want to measure over from this side seam the whole width of my back waistband. So of course this is just 1/4 of the waistband, half of the back. The back is going to be a little bit fuller than the front as well. And my back waistband is 26 centimeters. It's gonna pop in 26. Double check that because I'm not sure it actually entered 26. Yeah, looks great. So then I also am going to just take this line here and create that parallel line. We did this right away before, but this is going to drop down that whole distance from that center back to the thigh height, and that is my measurement of 28. So this is the depth of my crotch here in the back. This is also my thigh circumference, or my thigh measurement location, kind of the upper thigh. I'm gonna measure my hem circumference for the back. So from the side seam down the back pant leg is going to be 22 centimeters here. It's just so much fun to just type in the measurements and then click it and then have my point exactly where I need it to be. I'm gonna add in my line going the other way, and my line from here to here. And then I just need to also have my waistline from this point, the center back point, to the side seam. So this drops different, since the center back is the highest point of my pant leg here. My waistband is dropping down to the side seam instead of up to the side seam on this pair, or the back leg rather. It's the same pair of pants. If this was going to be like a fitted pair of jeans, I would need to be a lot more aware of how I was shaping the crotch itself, as the crotch is a very important area just to have right for your fit enjoyment and enjoyment of the garment. So I'm going to flatten this out a little bit, give myself a little bit more room in my thigh, but keep the leg still pretty straight as it comes up to about my knee. You can always drop in those horizontal lines at your knee, at your calf height, if you wanted to double check the fullness of the pant leg there. But this is looking really good. I'm just going to reshape this line because I want it to be squared off where it crosses that center back, and then dip into going down for my side seam. I'm going to just cut this out quick. This is my back pant leg, and drop in a point so I can add my notch at the location for the pocket. So 15 centimeters is the opening that I have for my pocket, and just add that notch in there. Select my whole piece so that I can add my seam allowance. Pop that in. Looking good. So let's just put it here, cut piece. So this is just showing you what the cut pattern piece is going to look like. The yellow line is my stitch line. The red line is the actual edge of the pattern. This little white line here shows my notch. So now I'm going to double check how these pieces fit together. So the things I want to double check are the side seam, since that seam is going to be connected. So I'm just going to pop these two pattern pieces on the same page. I'm going to line up the points, put them together, and then I can just double check that it's exactly square. the notch for my pocket depth is exactly at the right spot. It's looking really good. And then I'm going to check my inseam length. Oh, I totally didn't measure that when I cross-referenced. Let's just see. Looks like my inseam is a little bit longer on the back leg. I'm going to quickly just double check. My waist is looking good. My thigh circumference measurement. I used my measurements to create this pattern, so it really should be one-to-one when I cross-reference it, but cross-referencing it is always important. It's just, again, super fun on the computer just because it's so fast. You can just draw that straight line and get an exact measurement for the different locations in your pattern piece. Okay, so I'm just gonna separate these two so that I can flip it around and then line up and check the inseam measurement. So flipped it around so that I can line up the crotch and that inseam inner leg and see how they compare to each other. So let's just zoom in a little bit here so we can see a little bit better, as I already know that the one is a little bit longer. So we're just gonna roll this on here. Take a look at this. So my back crotch is just slightly higher. Since this is a jammy pant, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to adjust the back to match up. It looks like quite a bit here, but if I measure it, it's just about 3/4 of a centimeter. So that's really quite a small amount. And having a little bit of a lower crotch is not really a big deal here at all. But I do want my stitch lines to match up when I'm putting it together. And I'm also going to just take a look at my other curve points here. Make sure that this crotch is curving nicely as it joins up together with the back. Perfect. Yeah, so now that's looking really good. I'm going to take this apart. I'm going to get rid of these lines I don't need, and I also don't need this pocket on here anymore. I've cut out the pocket, I've got my pattern piece here, so I'm just going to remove this line. It just helped me cut out the piece. I am going to, however, add in a notch here because I have the markings here where the pocket actually goes to, so I might as well add a little notch here for the whole length. I'm going to sew that pocket in to the side seam all the way down and into the waistband right to here. So this is where my pocket ends, so that'll help me kind of match it up and get it in straight. So I'm going to add a couple of little extra notches there. So let's save everything so we've got it, and there you have it. Last step is just to print it out, and then I can lay it on my fabric and get working on it. Here we go. I printed it out, and yes, I do have a plotter, which is just a really, really large printer. Like I said, with wedding gowns, if I'm doing this every day on a regular basis, I'm definitely not going to be taping a little regular PDF kind of size pages together to create these wedding gowns if I am doing digital pattern drafting. But this paper now for my pants, I get to kind of spoil myself and still print it out all in one sheet. So I'm going to just get this cut out, and then I'll have it ready to go. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Workshop Wednesday and getting that little sneak peek tour. All of the techniques that I use, you can use them exactly the same on a piece of paper when you're drafting the page, or the pattern rather. It's just that on this computer screen you can see these larger patterns, have a better kind of overview or bird's eye view of the pages of the pieces. And other than that, it's exactly the same technique. You just have different tools, obviously, when you're doing digital drafting rather than just like the physical paper drafting. Thanks for joining me for this week's episode of Workshop Wednesday. Next week, I'm going to do a step-by-step tutorial on how I put these jammy pants together, so the actual production plan of this particular garment. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you on the other side of the new year in 2022. Happy New Year!